closing the rift and start a new one faster. It really depends. It depends on the area, because like some areas are like not as sparse for EXP, or not as well, not as sparse. Some of them are not as dense for EXP, so like you definitely want to get out of those ones as fast as possible. But elites give you the most experience, so if you find rifts that have really good elite density, you want to stay in them longer. The only reason that you would want to like very quickly go from rift to rift is if blood shards were the main concern, because you can't get blood shards once the rift guardian is dead, you know? So it would make sense to just keep constantly rolling them to get to as many rift guardians as possible. Yeah, that's a good point too. The real. There was a bit of what's the word? Derision, because people realized that the actual real money that they had invested into their items was going to sort of depreciate. But I mean, you had to expect that as a thing, because they could never just have those items always be the best items, or else those people, basically like anyone that spent money on buying items, were always going to have something to complain about. Because if they wanted their items to maintain their value, then the devs would be kind of locked into making sure they never made anything better than those items that were like top valued the most. And at that point, those people that wanted to be powerful and buy all the items, they would then complain that there was nothing for them to play for because they had all the best items already. But if the devs make items that are better for those people to go after or purchase or whatever, then again they can complain and say like, well, you invalidated all my previous purchases. So it's kind of like a catch-22, you know? You can't win. And so I think for the health of the game, they decided to go the other route, where it's like, we're gonna add better items, more items, because it gives everyone something to chase, and the people who didn't spend money with it, or spent money to get those items previously, they'll be excited because they just have more carrots, and the people that did spend money, well, they're gonna be bummed out, but hopefully they'll get over it. And for the most part, it seems like people have gotten over it. Maybe there were people that left that were really just that upset, but I mean, that's kind of the risk you take when you throw money into a game. I mean, like, literally, same thing could happen in Hearthstone, right? Like, they could release a set that just completely invalidates all the old sets. I think that kind of happened in a way with Goblins versus Gnomes. Like, a lot of the cards in that set are really powerful, to the point where they kind of invalidate some of the cards in the classic set. And people that spent tons of money on packs, like, they are kind of having to face the fact that all the cards that they were striving to get in those packs, a lot of them are now kind of useless. Like, they'll sit in their collection, but they're not really going to do much for them in terms of winning games or helping you to continue to build your collection. So you see it all. You see it all the time. It's occupational hazard, I suppose. Just to complain. Yeah, I don't know. It just it kind of boils down to what your mentality is when you're putting the money into the game. Like, you have to know that, like, you're basically buying pixels, you know? And pixels, like, have no actual value. It only has value based on the value that you attribute to it as a person, like, emotionally and mentally, and maybe to some degree, like, the emotion that you attach to your characters too, because the items are an extension of your characters, or the prowess that you feel when you utilize those characters. So if you tell yourself that, you know, if you're realistic with yourself and you just say, I'm buying basically like storage on the internet, but I'm using that storage in order to do things with my time that I feel like is positive and enriching my free time, then in a way you're kind of buying the entertainment value, and therefore that money is spent. Like, no matter what, that money is always spent. But if you tell yourself that you're like buying an investment into the game, and like the game has to stay the way it is always and forever for that investment to constantly mean something to you and feel like it was a good investment, that's kind of unrealistic in terms of like providing good entertainment. It's an interesting thing to think about, that's for sure.